So welcome to Red Dog Blue Cat and our grand opening. You guys, I was so amazed how many people have come and where they came from. We have people from all over the country. So we've got people from all over BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario. Anybody? Did I miss anybody? States, that's right. We've got somebody that came from Washington State, and of course from Nova Scotia. So all over the country. This is how far this movement has come. It's really quite exciting. So thank you everybody for coming today. Thank you everybody who's watching us live. It's really exciting to be here. This is the day I've been looking forward to for 15 years. So this facility, this is more than just the an escalation in our manufacturing capability. For my team and I, this is really the next phase of seeing through our vision to help pets live longer and healthier lives. So I really want to take a moment to thank every single Red Dog Blue Cat team member, past and present, for all your hard work, for your dedication. You're going to see some of them wearing red t-shirts. Just these people are amazing. And they are here. They've shaped the company that we have here today. I really have no words to tell you how much I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you. And of course, I also need to thank my partners in crime. All the stores, the pet owners, the rescues, the veterinarians, and all the other mentors that we've been so blessed and humbled to work with every single day to help us see through our vision and help pets live longer. You've seen us at our best and our worst. You've given us feedback. You've forgiven us for our mistakes, and you've stood by us with an unwavering commitment so that we can see our vision through. Thank you very much. Got one more thank you that's really important, and that's to Paul, who is watching us live, and Ruth from AHA Creative, who made this event possible. I have to tell you, about 5 weeks ago, I kind of went into a bit of a panic because we were trying to organize this event, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And my general manager's like, you got to hire somebody. So I called the two people that I always call when I'm panicking. And they came through in a big way. They've been working night and day and going above and beyond, literally. I've been seeing emails from them like at midnight, at 5 a.m., every hour of the day. So thank you so much, Ruth, Paul, to both of you for making this happen for us. So I chose the theme, the future of pet health is now, because now more than ever, we're seeing a transformation in the pet industry and in the conversation of pet nutrition. It's really amazing, right? I mean, we've had this conversation for a long time. We know, fresh food is good for pets, biologically appropriate food, minimally processed foods. We've been talking about this for a long time, but now we're seeing more and more research coming out and more people talking about this. And the research that's showing that, we're seeing the same conversation in the human world as well, and we're watching that happen in parallel. Research about that there's no such thing really. It's coming down to there's no such thing as pet food and human food. There's no such thing as pet science and human science. There's just science about food, and there's food that makes us healthy and feeds the health of cells, and there's food that feeds disease. So we're here today because there's a wave coming, and every single one of us is going to be part of it, and I think it's a conversation worth having and worth noting. I'm trying not to use my notes, but I do apologize if I have to stop it every now and then. Now, this evolution is really inspiring. And, when you own a business, inspiration is really critical, because some days you're just working on the day-to-day stuff and you get buried with your head down and you're exhausted. And those are the days when I really reach out and try and find that inspiration, the why did I start this to begin this? Why am I sitting here at midnight trying to fix something when I could be at home sleeping? And so, I wanted to, when we started talking about having this grand opening, I thought I really want to share what inspired me and some of the things that kept me going and helped me get to where we are today and build this amazing plan for the future. And that was people like Karen and Rodney and Julie. And that is why I invited them here today, because they have led the way. They've been our beacon. And we're all so humbled to be following them and being part of this community that's going to change the world. Now, it felt important as we embrace and celebrate the future that we didn't let this moment pass without kind of looking back at the past and how far we have come in the last 2 decades, right? If we go back, say 15, 16 years ago, the number of stores that carried raw, you could probably count them on your fingers. And the number of manufacturers was just as sparse, if not less. And I know it couldn't have been easy for any of them, for those pioneers, because raw was an uphill battle all the way. The idea of raw faced strong opposition from veterinarians, from breeders, from all over the industry. Basically, the BCVMA, I remember this way back when we first started, they would fine and even shut down vets that publicly promoted raw, right? Julie is a prime example. So Julie and a number of other local holistic vets, they embrace this movement. They're responsible for getting us to where we are in BC, but it wasn't an easy road. It was literally a modern-day witch hunt. They would get fined, lawsuits, etc. It was ridiculous. And consumers weren't in a much better place. Basically, the message 20 years ago was, if you feed your pets raw, you're going to kill them. And if they don't succumb to disease, they're certainly going to die of malnutrition, because unless you have a PhD, you can't feed your pet by yourself. There's no way, right? That was the message. So it sounds ridiculous now, but this is what we faced. And yet, despite all of that, here we are today. Almost every pet store in Canada carries raw. The number of options commercially that people have to make raw, the amount of information that they can use to make it at home is more than we've ever seen before. And the amount of research that we're seeing that's validating and showing how raw and fresh food is going to help our pets is phenomenal. It's a night and day, right? And even the veterinary community is slowly starting to come around. The numbers are shifting. Every pet owner now has access, whether it's in person or online, to a holistic veterinarian so they can find how to do things better. So that is amazing. And it wasn't easy to get there, right? There's been a lot of struggle, and it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen on its own. It happened because people believed and cared. People like Rodney, Karen, and Julie, but also people like yourself here. Every pet owner that said, I will not settle. Every store owner that said, I'm going to do better and I'm going to put what's right before business. Every single one of you that said, I want better for my pet and I'm not going to stop talking until I get it. We are here because of every one of you. So look around the room and give yourself a big round of applause as well. So one thing that hasn't quite changed yet is the lack of regulations in the industry. Basically, any company in Canada can make food and say whatever they want on the label, and there's really not accountable to anybody. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good manufacturers in Canada.
Great job. I'm just going to get my sweater. The hot flash is done.
Am I going to get flooded on here? So, I realize this is a little bit of an unconventional setup for a lecture. We kind of had to do a toss-up between, do we rent a hall and risk that people are not going to take the time to come and see our amazing facility, or do we hope that by the end of March, BC weather is going to actually... So thank you for bearing with us on that end and being a great sport. And yeah, at least it's not snowing. So as I was saying, there's a lot of great manufacturers in Canada, and there's a lot of options for consumers to feed their pets really good food. But because there's no regulations, consumers need to be really diligent in researching the food that they're feeding their pets. And so as a manufacturer, I feel that it's my responsibility to make sure that we provide as much information, as much transparency, and as much education as possible to help people make the choices. Whether they choose our food, somebody else's, it doesn't matter. We just want to help the industry grow. And this industry was founded on the fact that there was a lack of transparency in this industry. And that is the first thing that has to change, is we need to be straightforward with what you're getting in your pet's food and help you make the best decisions. And we can't do that alone. So we need your help. For every store out there, for every pet owner out there, keep doing what you're doing. Keep having a conversation about healthy nutrition. I hope there was nobody on the other side. Every single one of you could have this conversation. And hopefully after today, it'll be a little bit easier. So, before we keep going, I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the growing up that we've done at Red Dog Blue Cat, because, we've come a long way. This has been in business since 2004, which seems like a long, long time ago. And this is our 5th manufacturing facility. So I've learned a few lessons along the way, and I wanted to share some of them. First one that I learned is you have to find your passion. You have to do what you love, because this is not an easy road. And as any business, you're going to encounter challenges. I know I've had my share. And when you love something and care about something, you literally find the strength to move mountains. So find what you love to do and do it. The other lesson I learned is tripe really smells. Now, first of all, I don't know how this happens, but every time we have somebody starting to a Red Dog, they usually seem to start on Tripe Day. It's like a little initiation ceremony. It's not planned, but it happens anyway. And I know most of you have probably fed tripe, so you kind of know that it's a little bit stinky, but you got to get this. When you get a whole bin of it and you're working with it all day, it really smells. Your clothes start to smell, and I don't mean just your outer overalls, but your actual clothes underneath. Your hair starts to smell. Your nails start to smell. You literally carry that smell of tripe with you for the next 2 hours, which is great because you can get a seat on the bus. Nobody wants to sit next to you, but not so great if you've got an engagement afterwards. So next time you open up that bag of tripe, please appreciate what our staff have to go through every time they have to make it. Just saying. So the other lesson that I learned, and Esther kind of stole my thunder a little bit, is balance and how important it is. It took me 10 years to learn that lesson. Some people might say that I'm still learning it. But, when you own a business, you can spend 80, 90 hours, whatever. You can spend all your time working in it. And even when you're not at the business, you're still thinking about it. So your brain is always there. And, you tell yourself that, I told my husband, next year it'll be better. I'm going to hire somebody. They're going to help me. But realistically, when you have a growing business, there's always more to do. So it doesn't matter how many people you hire. There's still, your list just keeps getting longer. So you really have to take the time to be intentional about finding that balance. So first of all, if Kevin, my husband, if you're watching, I'm sorry, and thank you for sticking through this and supporting me all the way, because it really takes patience, I know. But in my case, I actually didn't have much of a choice, because about 5 years ago, I found out that we were going to have our first child. And so I knew that I had to figure out how to make some time away from the business, because I was going to be sharing that time with a new little tiny person that's going to be needing me a lot. So I think in some ways, having kids was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because it really forced me to find a balance in life. And looking back, it's kind of ironic, because what we teach as a group is about health. And balance is such a huge component of health. if you're working all the time and you're stressing out, that has more impact on your health than food ever will. And yet, we tend to get into those cycles. So I just want to really take a moment to appreciate how important it is to find that balance. Especially, take a moment to hang out with your dog, with your cat, with your kids, with your significant other, and really be present in that moment. Not checking your phone, not looking for messages, not thinking about something else that you were supposed to do yesterday or tomorrow, but really being present. Because that is more important than food and than anything else that we can do in this world. And it's free. So, another lesson, cats are really picky. Whew! I don't think that one needs any more explanation. But I've always been a dog person, so this was a whole new thing for me. Another lesson that I learned was that business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. And when you have a business, it just, it's a whole parade. It's a transit station. So, and it's really easy as an owner to kind of get excited about the new shiny thing. But the thing is, it takes away focus from what your core purpose really is. So one of the things that I've intentionally decided, and I just want to tell you today because I think it's important for you to know, is that as Red Dog Blue Cat, myself and the rest of my team, we are truly committed to focusing on helping pets live longer and healthier lives. And you're going to see a lot of new things from us this year, but every single one of us was intentionally chosen with that purpose in mind. So and finally, one last lesson is take the time to appreciate what you've done, which is something I'm really awful at. I'm always looking at the next thing we're going to do and the next goal. And so sometimes, one of the things that I've learned from my many mentors is stop and just appreciate and enjoy the moment, which is what we're doing today. Now, you've probably heard that this is our 5th facility. I think I mentioned this before. And unfortunately, 6 if you count my kitchen. And if anybody wants to hear the meat in the bathtub story, I don't think I have time for it, but I can tell you after. But getting here wasn't particularly easy. So we found the space, we designed it, and then our general manager said, or our contractor said, it's going to take 6 months to build what you want. We had 4. I kid you not. Our landlord had actually already leased her place, so it was basically we were either going to be out and for or without a home or moving into one. We didn't know which one. So we got to work and said, well, we're going to make the impossible happen. And one of the challenges we encountered was getting a permit from the city. The person that was working on our permit was really, really thorough, which is good when you're coming to building, right? No complaints, but it was like a back and forth for months. So finally, I felt like I needed to do something, because that's how I am. So I did the only thing I could think of. I took my 9-month-old baby, and I headed to City Hall, and I pleaded. Now, I don't know if it was the stupidest thing I've ever done or the smartest thing I've ever done, but we did get our permit about a week after that. So she took pity on me. Not many people know that story, just so you know. I guess now everybody knows. Now this was just one little piece of a really, really big project. So one other thank you that I'm going to say today is to every single person that worked to make this facility come together in such a brilliant fashion in such a short time, on budget, without any compromises. It's a really big task. And one of the people that I particularly want to thank is Morris, who's hiding over there, who is our general manager. I'm pretty sure you spent a few nights here making sure that things went on track and that every contractor was held to account and knew what was going on. So thank you, Morris. Really appreciate it. So we made it. Here we are. And now let's talk a little bit about the future. Now, starting a conversation about change, whether it's a little change or big change, isn't always easy. I mean, when we talk to people about fresh food, a lot of times you get the, well, my pet's doing just fine. I don't need to change their food. And, truth is that sometimes, if you just tell them you're going to have a fresher coat and then, nicer smell and more energy, that's not always the most compelling reason to make that change. But today, we have a lot more. As we learn more, we realize that this is a much bigger conversation than a nice shiny coat and a less offensive stool. Not that the smelly stool is not a bad thing, but we know that there's bigger things at stake. That fresh food can make a difference between your pet living 2 to 3 years longer. It can make a difference between whether they become a cancer statistic or whether they actually live to their full potential. So when you go home today, I hope that you can take away some of the big picture conversations, because we know our pets can live longer. We know that they don't have to be a statistic in diabetes or kidney failure or cancer or any of those other diseases that plague both us and our pets. A lot of it is preventable, and a lot of it is the things that are within our control and our choice. And every pet owner has to make their own choice of what works for them. We're not trying to scare anybody. We're not trying to force anybody. But it is our responsibility to at least engage in the conversation and let them know what their options are and what the information is, and then they can choose what they feel is right. Just like we make choices for ourselves. So each of the speakers that I invited here today is going to cover a really critical topic that I feel are kind of the biggest topics in this world. In this conversation today, Karen is going to talk about raw nutrition, and just as in any other food conversation, there are still things that we have to do in order to make sure that nutrition is appropriate and adequate and will produce the results that it needs. And so she is going to talk about how to choose good raw foods, what are some of the differences between ancestral diets and kind of where we came from and where we're going. Rodney, I don't really know what he's going to talk about. But I'm sure it will be brilliant, because he's working on some groundbreaking things. I believe it's something to do with cancer, but we'll find out. And Julie is going to cover a topic that's really, truly dear to my heart as well, and that is gut health. And I think it's one of the least understood topics today. Even though we all know what probiotics are and we kind of understand that there's a gut flora, I think the conversation is just beginning in terms of how much gut health affects our entire system, our entire health, absorption of food. You could be feeding the best raw food in the world, but if your gut is not healthy, you may not be getting any of the benefits from it. And it's not just probiotics that affect gut health, it's a lot of other aspects. And so Julie is one of the experts in the world on this topic, and so we're very thrilled to have her here today. We're thrilled to have all of you guys today, but this is, as I said, a topic that's really important to me. Now, before I close, I'm almost done. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we have coming up and working on in this year that you're going to see from us. One of the things that we just released is something called the Eco Line. This has been a project of mine for the last year or so. It's basically a food that includes insect protein, bugs. So the reason that I started looking at this was because, the reality is we live in a different world from we talk about the ancestral diet as being kind of the optimal diet for pets, and that's very true. But we live in a different world than our ancestors and what our pets had access to when they were living in the wild, right? Agriculture is different, the food sources are different, everything is different. And our world is not going to move backwards. It's going to keep going forward. So in looking at nutrition and what we can do for pets, we do have to look backwards, but we also need to look forward. And so one of the things I wanted to do was find a way to create a food that was both nutritious and more environmentally sustainable. And that's where we ended up with bugs. So the bug that we found, I know some of you are going, but it's, come on, your pets lick their bum. And they eat bugs, so it's it's not that far out of reach here, thank you. So the bug that we found wasn't just a good protein source, it's actually a high mineral source. and it's balanced in omega-3 fatty acids. So it's actually a really good food that complements meat really, really well. I was actually surprised. It literally, the formula wrote itself almost. And the other cool thing about this bug is it's actually it's really good for the environment, because what they do is they feed these bugs vegetables and fruits that would otherwise go to the dump. So they're natural recyclers, and they're able to process all of these fermenting vegetables and turn them into this superfood. So it's really quite impressive. And so if you haven't seen it yet in the stores, it's coming out, and try it out with your pet. I'd love to get your feedback. The other thing that's coming out pretty soon is our new website that's going to match our new brand. This is just the beginning. Our goal with this website is to really create an education hub that's going to help bring together a bunch of information around the world about different health topics, including health issues, probiotics, and all the topics that are going on today, improve our feeding calculator, and really provide something that becomes a resource for people as they're trying to figure out how to best keep their pets healthy. The other thing that we're working on is doing an assessment of our formulations. So when we first created our formulas, we worked with a number of local veterinarians, and one of the things that they were looking at the time is ancestral diet, and they believed that the best way to create something modern that for today's world was to try and mimic that diet in the best way that they knew how. So based on the research they had at the time, we created our formulas with that concept in mind, and with the concept of variety, because I believe that's really, really important. Now, today we know way more about nutrition and how to formulate raw. So just like our understanding of raw has evolved, our formulas need to evolve as well. So this year I'm working with Steve Brown, Dr. Becker, and a number of other people to improve our formulas, because I know we can do better, and when I know we can do better, then I will do better. So you're going to start seeing some information about that, and they're not going to be major changes initially. There'll be small tweaks, and just so you know, we will be looking for some product testers to make sure that as we change these formulas, they're also going to continue to be very tasty and something that your pets will love. All right. We're also going to increase our conversation about another bug. The bugs that are in are the probiotic bugs. So as I said, I think it's a very important topic, and it's one that I want to make sure that gets the attention that it deserves, because it's a really undervalued and not really understood very well. So we've already written 3 blogs about that, and we're going to continue to bring more and more information about how to make sure that we don't just have a conversation about our digestive health, but we have a bigger conversation. One of the lectures that I attended, the lecturer said that bacteria are the missing ingredient in our food. Because we've literally, over the last few decades, the philosophy has been sterilize everything. So by sterilizing, you eliminate the bad bugs, but you also eliminate all the good things. So now we're starting to come back to the science of, okay, we actually need to have this internal system of bacteria that promotes health. But we need to take it a step further. It actually needs to be in our food system and in our environment as well, because it's actually essential to food safety. That what happens naturally is that the good bacteria create a balance that keeps any pathogens away. And so that's something that we're going to be working on to both educate and incorporate into what we're doing, because we do believe that's an essential part of balance and health. And so we want to make sure that that's integrated into our entire business. And then, in addition to that, food safety is really important, don't get me wrong. So as you've probably heard in the tour, we are also working towards HACCP certification to make sure that our plant is pristine and that we're not introducing anything pathogenic into the food system, that we're honoring it exactly the way it is. So, before we move on to the ribbon cutting ceremony, which is next, I just wanted to leave you with a few very quick final thoughts. Look around the room. There's tons of people here. Despite the rain, despite the cold, you're all here. You are not alone. We are all here together as a community. And we are stronger together than if we worked on our own. So what I would encourage you to do is meet as many people as you can here, because this is your support network. I know we're all in business and there's competition and all that stuff, but if our goal is to grow the industry as a whole, then if we work together, we can do it more powerfully, more effectively than if each of us works individually. And we're up against some really big companies that have a lot of deep pockets. So for us to really grow our entire industry, we do need to work together, and then we all benefit. Okay, last thought. Sorry, I'm getting the please finish up now. Be open to new ideas. What's that? Okay. Look, nobody, even today, nobody understands 100% about nutrition. Nobody has the monopoly on this. Nobody has all the information. We're still learning. So the best way that you can ensure that all our pets get the best care that they get and the best nutrition that they get is feed variety. Variety of foods, variety of brands, variety of everything, variety, whether it's probiotics, supplements, foods, whatever. Just be open and try new things. Because whatever we know today, we're going to know more tomorrow. And don't give up. Keep fighting a good fight. Thank you.